Hello everyone, Equipment War here, and welcome to my build guide for my Dual Wield Duelist crit build. I'm gonna start by go over my passive skill tree, then I'm gonna go over my gear, and then I'm gonna go over my skill gems. If you have any questions about any of that, feel free to ask me in the comments. So let's get started. I start by taking the physical damage in the beginning and the attack speed. Then I went to take the physical damage and this armor evasion and life notes here. And if you want a little bit more life, you can of course take the last one as well. Went for Master Arena, Bravery, and then Art of the Gladiator. I then went for Devilish, if that is how you pronounce it. And I also took all the other notes in this small wheel here. Went down here, I took Might and Influence, I put a jewel here, Might and Influence. And this is the only place you can have your Might and Influence because you need at least 4 dexterity in a radius. And this is the only where in the skill tree you can actually have this specific note here. And Might and Influence is really powerful when you combine it with Dual Strike, which is my main skill for this build. You can use Cleave in this build as well, which I sometimes use. But then you need to change this jewel here for another one. I think the name was Overwhelming Odds. You can see it on screen right now. And if you're using Cleave, just change Might and Influence to that jewel instead. But let's move on. Also took a Cloak and Chain here for some nice elemental resistance and some good armor and evasion. I also have Iron Reflexes. This is not a must-have, but if you're getting a lot of evasion on your armor, I prefer actually have armor over evasion. That's just what I prefer. But let's move on. I went this way here. I took a Swagger to get some good block chance. I also took Amber Dexterity for some really nice increased damage with your main hand and your offhand weapon. Overall, a solid note. Also have Blade Barrier to get some even better block chance. I also have Blade Dancer for some nice damage with swords. And I took Thick Skin. And I also took Twin Terror for some massive amount of crit chance when dual wielding. Let's move on to the other side. And then I went for... I can't pronounce this one, but it's a good note for getting some life back. I also have Dismembering for some good crit chance, and of course you can take this one as well. I also took Blade of Carning and some other good crit notes here for swords. I went up here, I took a Bloodless on my way. Went all the way up here to the Marauder side and took a Razor's Edge and Blade Master. And then I took Juggernaut. I have a jewel here, which just gives me some block chance, increased damage when dual wielding, and some attack speed. A relatively nice note and not that really expensive actually, this jewel here. I took Barbarism for some more life. I took Healthy to get some life generation. This note here is not a must-have, but I like to have some life generation. But you can just take away these 3 notes here if you just want to get some more damage, like this melee and critical strike notes here, if damage is more your thing. And again, I have this Emboweling here for some good crit chance and crit damage. And that's just my simple passive skill tree. Let's take a look at my Ascendancy tree. I start by taking Overwhelm, and Overwhelm is really important for this build because I am a crit based build. But not having to waste an entire fortune in currency just to get a sword with some decent crit chance on. Overwhelm makes that all of your weapons have a base crit chance of 8. Which is a lot of crit chance for a sword, for example. I also took Impact to get some much needed accuracy, melee strike range, and also some general AoE stuff. I also have Bane of Legends. And I have Headsman. And that's pretty much my skill tree setup. If you have any questions about my skill tree, feel free to ask me in the comments. So let's take a look at my items. So let's start by talking about the most important item, which is of course your weapons. For your weapons, you want as high physical damage and attack speed as you can afford and get. The higher attack speed and physical damage, the better. For my helmet, just getting an decent helmet which have good armor, good life, and the resistance you need. For your rings and amulet, again, life and resistance, And also some stats like intelligence and dexterity. And if you can afford it, try to get some flat physical damage and or attack speed. And even some accuracy is quite helpful on rings and amulets. And also one side note, this ring here, which you can see have 0.22 of physical damage is leached as mana. That is my main mana source for this build. So try to get something like that, which have physical damage is leached as mana. That will sustain all your mana. And another side note, you can take it in the skill tree if you want to sacrifice some points. You can take this note here, and then go for this mana and this life and mana note here. Or if you want to go really crazy, you can just go for Spirit Void. And then when you're here, you can take Vitality Void. If you don't want to spend the currency or try to get something that have physical damage leached as mana on your items. Moving on, using a pair of spiked gloves because it increases your physical damage. And on your gloves, you can actually get both attack speed and flat added physical damage to your attacks. But the most important thing is, as always, getting the life and resistance you need, so you can cap out your resistance. For my belt, I'm just using a classic rustic stash, can't pronounce it. I'm using this belt for, it has some global physical damage on it. Also have really good resistance and some good life. There are even better belts than this one, and probably some of the newer ones is better. But this is what I happen to have. So again, go for life and resistance on your belt foremost. And then try to get some armor, for example. Or in this case, some increased global physical damage. For my boots, just using this pair of boots here, I have some intelligence on it, which I really needed. Also, again, life and the resistance you might need. And also some movement speed is really good, or almost a must-have on your boots. For my flask, I'm using 2 remove bleed flasks. You can see these 2 here. I also have a lion's roar for some spicy damage when you're using it. I was using a sulfur flask, which is not strictly necessary. You could probably just use another lion's roar, and that would probably be better. And I'm using a basalt flask for some extra protection. And also removes bleeding. And that's pretty much my items. If you have any questions about my items, feel free to ask me in the comments. So let's take a look at my skill gems. I can start with a main damage skill, which is Dual Strike. And Dual Strike are supported by chance to bleed, melee physical damage, critical strike damage, brutality, and fortify. I'm using fortify to get some extra protection as well. I'm using one counter skill, which is Riposte. And Riposte are supported by melee physical damage and maim. I'm using Vengeance together with melee physical damage, life leech, and life gain and hit to get some extra life back here and there. I'm using 2 movement skill, which is Whirling Blade, really good to get out of bad situation and dodge attacks. I'm using Leap Slam for fast movement over the map, and getting up and down for leeches and cavices. I think I pronounced that wrong. And they're both supported by faster attacks. I'm using some buffers. I'm using Pride to get some extra damage on enemies that are near me. I'm using Herald of Purity for some extra damage again. Using Blood and Sand for either better single target damage or better AoE. I'm also using a Blood Rage to get some nice attack speed bonus, also nice life leech, and also a good chance to getting french charges when I kill something. I'm using 1 constant damage taken, which is a level 1 constant damage taken, and which is supported by an increased duration to increase the duration of Vortex and Creeping Frost. And that's pretty much my skill gems. If you have any questions about my skill gem, please let me know. I thank you all for watching this video, and if you have any questions about what I said or this build, feel free to ask me in the comments.